Hey everybody, welcome back to the Extension Podcast on Wiregrass Grown. I'm Micah Johnson, Houston County Extension Director.
And I'm Aaron Wells, Extension Agent for row crops here in the southeast part of the state.
And we're on site today at the Wiregrass Innovation Center. We got a ag meeting this morning with International Fertilizer Development Center rep that's going to be talking with us a little bit later. But first we have a rundown of a few events. We have some, according to the calendar on Wiregrass Grown, we have some Lunch and Learns, a Wiregrass Pollinator Lunch and Learn here in Dothan. We have a neat event in August at the Peanut Festival. We're going to put some growers and some buyers in a room together. So if you're a local producer and want to showcase your farm or your products, we're going to have you in a room with some buyers, consumers, restaurants, maybe anyone associated with a site that wants to use local produce. That same week, we're also going to have a row crop field day.
Row crops field day will be in August up at the research station in Headland. I'll be looking for more information on that when the dates get finalized.
Yeah. And as always, check out the Wiregrass Grown website. On the calendar tab, there's a list of events coming up in the Wiregrass. And as always, we welcome you back to Extension Podcast. And in just a minute, we will be meeting with Dr. Beth Guertal from International Fertilizer Development Center. And we're going to be discussing with her. Their presence in Dothan is going to be coming up with their life center right here in the Wiregrass. So again, thanks for dropping in. So hey everyone, so here we are. As mentioned before, we're here with Dr. Beth Guertal from International Fertilizer Development Center. IFDC is going to be setting up shop down here in the Wiregrass. And we're going to pick her brain a little bit, get to know her, and kind of see her path with Auburn University and maybe with where her role is going to be doing fertilizer research and get to know a little bit about what's coming down the road. So here we are. And we also have one of Dr. Guertal's former students with us. We all know Aaron, that Aaron's pretty excited to have one of his former professors here. So probably say, was he a good student?
Yes, he was the best.
I'm sure he was. You were the leader of what group was that? You were the agronomy club. I was president one year.
President of the agronomy club.
Very pristine position.
It really is. Do you know my son is the most recent president? Look, we are.
Okay. And I did see y'all are still doing the sweet corn.
Sweet. Does it? So it was corn last week.
Yeah. Saw there. I was always a big fundraiser for the agronomy club. It's not agronomy club anymore, I'm sure.
Yeah, but we still call it the agronomy.
Okay. That's good.
The agronomy club leads to big things.
Yes, like working for Extension.
Leadership roles.
All right. So Dr. Guertal, you started with Auburn?
I did.
And here you are with IFDC. Give us a little background about kind of what you hang your hat.
So 1993, right? I started Auburn University and I got hired to do everything was always soils. So soil fertility of vegetable crops. And I did that for a while. And then my boss came down in around 98 and said, hey, the whole turf grass program just retired. So now you're turf grass. Yay. And so I did that. But a lot of field crop agronomy all be along. And in about 2022, the opportunity came to work for USAID, the United States Aid and International Development. And I did that for Kansas State. But I never left Auburn. I just moved to my garage. And I did that until the government closures of USAID. And then I worked for International Fertilizer Development Center. So never left Auburn. Now I'm with IFDC.
Throughout your career, have you spent much time in the Wiregrass in the Dothan area?
Yeah, a lot of time making that motion with the gnats at Headland, right?
That's it. It's always fun seeing the people from Auburn come down. They're not from South Alabama, Southwest Georgia, and it's right. What's life? It's like, what is this invasive species that we have here?
Back in the days of Larry Wells and all those, we ran a lot of trials down there. So cotton, we actually used to do pepper and tomato trials down there. They were very kind and let us raised beds up, and up until my retirement, did a fair amount of sulfur work down there.
So not a stranger to the Wiregrass.
No.
That'll probably serve well in your role coming up with a national fertilizer. You don't have to learn the area, don't have to learn the.
Oh, there's always things to learn, of course. But yeah, so IFDC, just to sort of provide the background, the International Fertilizer Development Center, it sounds fancy, international. Yes, we do work around the world, but the headquarters have always been in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And they've been there since the 1930s, which was the Tennessee Valley Authority, which was Depression-era programs for rural electrification. That was a success. And then what came out of that was the National Fertilizer Development Center. So like if those who are listening, if you go and buy anything like Scott's Turf Builder, 30% of the fertilizer in that is from a IFDC or National Fertilizer Development methylene urea. That one, it's always in there. So from National Fertilizer Development Center in 1971 came International Fertilizer Development Center. And if you think about that time, that was sort of the start of interest in America having a big role in international ag, having a presence, and IFDC came out of that. So fast forward to today, the idea is that we would create a satellite region down here because this is a huge area of agriculture, of agricultural development, agricultural research, and IFDC thinks that having a sort of satellite version to be called the Life U.S. Center, so Laboratory for Innovations in Fertilizer, would be down here in Dothan.
Okay. And that'll be housed
at the Wiregrass Innovation Center.
And that's, by the way, that's where we are today.
Where you're recording today.
Yeah, so if the brew looks different, we're at the Wiregrass Innovation Center. I had a nice meeting this morning. And so the name of the program is
Life Laboratory for Innovation in Fertilizers, and I'm in charge. I'm the director of the U.S. Center. There's matching centers in India. There's one in Brazil. Those are both up and going, and then there's plans for one in Africa.
Okay. So those are all life centers, and this will be the life center for the United States.
Yeah.
The only one?
Yeah.
Wow. Right.
Only one. Here we go. Yeah.
All right. So let's do that.
I guess for the folks watching and listening that may not fully understand, I mean, yes, this did come out of the TVA and it was meant to try to help create better farming practices or best farming measures.
Right.
What is IFDC getting that in USDA? What is the primary goal? What are their functions? What's their function?
So its function now is it does do fertilizer research and development, and I would say a little bit more of emphasis on development. So like, how does that change from what a researcher at Auburn University might do? Well, they might get a call from a company and say, hey, we have this new fertilizer. Would you do a cotton trial? We want 3 rates of nitrogen, with different tillage systems. All right, IFDC probably stepped in before, and to get that new fertilizer, they tested it in the pilot plant, and they maybe did some more greenhouse studies and got it ready to go on to the next chapter.
So they're really heavily involved in the processing from the raw materials to get to the fertilizer.
Yes, so. Absolutely. And then also development of technologies that, again, back to the international part, that might not apply in the United States, but that would have great utility in, say, like Africa. So like they kind of did a lot of work on deep placement of big urea prills for rice production as a small example. They're doing a lot of work now on some different phosphate materials and trying to kind of break that phosphate issue of like P availability.
I guess that was going to be another question. Are y'all looking solely at nitrogen, or are you looking at all?
We're looking at all of it. So, back like you mentioned the meeting that was held earlier, there were a lot of questions about things like biostimulants and things that aren't necessarily fertilizers, and we're kind of fertilizer adjacent, right? Hormones and growth additives. We would work in that spectrum too. Gotcha. And Auburn would be a partner, Mississippi State would be a partner. We're not in the business taking business away from other people. It's a collaborative approach.
Yeah, anytime you can put a lot of extra eyes on things, it's usually going to find solutions quicker, or determine what problems are and find solutions much quicker than just one group working on it. So
I agree.
So in the line of research takes time, especially in ag. It's not that it just happens overnight. There's growing seasons and data and quantifying all the information. So it's kind of hard to understand why research is exciting to some people. Like, okay, well, you're looking into it, but it's going to be 3 or 4 years before we even get the product. So what about this move can we be excited about today? Make research a party today.
Yeah. Well, it's such a great question. I mean, I'm excited every day about fertilizers, which is like I need to get a different hobby. But it's just, you think about what's the number one thing. If you just stopped a person in the street and said, "Hey, what are you concerned about?" And it's food prices, right? Everybody talks about that. Man, you go and buy something and it's expensive, and that's related back to the cost of corn and soybean. And so if we can figure out a way to develop fertilizers in the wiregrass, which then grows a business, which makes that fertilizer and then lowers the input costs for a farmer, that's a pretty exciting day. And you're right, it is a truth that it's going to take multiple years. That's just an unfortunate consequence of the kind of work we do.
Sure. And it's never too late to get to know what research is about. It's never, if you're out there and you maybe not be involved in research, there's always a starting point, getting to know what's being researched or what the next step is. It may not happen tomorrow, but the better foundational knowledge you have today, you kind of have a starting point on what's the next, what we're looking for, what's the goal.
Absolutely.
And then it kind of gives something to follow along with.
Yeah, it all builds. It all, and as for the state of Alabama and Alabama Forward Extension have such a legacy of starting here, and then it builds on. I mean, you go back to potassium, right? The original plots that figured out cotton had a potassium deficiency are still in Auburn behind the art museum. We almost lost them. They tried to put the art museum on them and were able to kind of work that out so that everybody benefited. But, 150 years ago, they thought that was a fungal disease. And it was Alabama research, Auburn University research that said, no, it's low potassium deficiency. And so you keep moving that story along to now.
And people don't always realize like the research does affect the everyday citizens' wallet and their day-to-day life. Those things you have in your house, the food you buy at the grocery store, and a lot of that started for research like this. And so you may not go into a grocery store thinking about research, but somebody somewhere had to put some pencil to the paper and look at some data and figure out the best way to feed everyone. Is there anything fertilizer-wise that you can speak on happening right now that's kind of got your interest, or is there just kind of you love? I know you love all of it.
Well, I think one thing that has been mentioned, and this is not so much for row crop agriculture, but for a homeowner or a person. And this is a bigger issue, right? Microplastics. We all talk about microplastics in the environment. And now, in fact, there's focus on things like facial scrubs and body scrubs that used to have microplastic beads, that those are showing up in our water supply. They're showing up in our water and they're showing up in our soil. So it's creating an interest in eliminating those. And so that brings us back to fertilizers, because in the 50s and 60s was the first development of encapsulated fertilizers. You take a little prill in your head, think of like taking a ping pong ball that would be soluble fertilizer, and then you just wrap a coat of saran wrap around it. And now you suddenly created a polymer coated fertilizer prill. Well, now make that really, really small and put it in your lawn, and you're digging around and you start finding those prills. And so like in England and in the UK, they've now said if that polymer-coated prill does not degrade in the soil within a certain period of time, it's no longer allowed. It's not that way in the U.S. yet, but I think it's a harbinger of what's going to come. So that's the kind of thing that we can start to develop. And in fact, there's people here at the Wiregrass Innovation Center that are working in that with degradable coatings. So the Light Center would partner with somebody like that.
Back, because we do have a following of row crop, animal agriculture,
right,
kind of thing. Over the years, we've seen fluctuations in fertilizer prices, things like that. The international fertilizer, is there anything being done there to try to help stabilize fertilizer prices or stabilize production?
Yeah, I do believe that those are important, and we will. So, particularly like, let's look at urea, which is then used to formulate UAN solutions, which are too commonly used in this area. Can you come up with better technologies in the processing line that a grower may not instantly care, but if you can do carbon capture and as you produce those products, they off-put a lot of carbon and other things. So can you trap those? Can you basically get better at the process to make it more efficient, which should then drop the price of the urea? And it's the same way, you look at a car from the 1970s, which other than a super great enormous engine, they weren't really efficient, were they? They had a lot of emissions, they had a lot of problems, and you compare that to what you get today, it's kind of the same way in fertilizer manufacture. And maybe we haven't paid as much attention as we have to cars and fertilizers. So one of the goals of the Life Center and IFDC as a whole is to get better what we call the green and blue technologies to make a more efficient material, which will reduce price.
Okay. So on personal best Guertal wells, you could pick one thing. This is just conversation. You could pick one thing to study. What would you research? You just
down to what base study if I could do it.
You just pick your
Oh man, I'd be doing sulfur on cotton. I think we've had you guys, we haven't seen it so much, have we, in the Southeast?
We have quite a few growers that automatically put sulfur in there.
Well, if you put ammonium sulfate out, you've covered the eighth, I think. But I would love to get a sulfur soil test that means something. Because right now we really don't. I mean, I kind of shrug, go, well, if your malic is 10, you're okay. Yeah. I would really like to start to get better numbers.
On sulfur. What's your thoughts? There's this theory floating around that, well, we've changed the diesel fuel where we've gone from regular diesel fuel to ultra low sulfur diesel fuel. And so there's not as much in the emissions.
Oh, absolutely. There's
Anthony think there are some too.
There are incredible national maps from like 1970 to 1990 to now. And so like in the 70s, the map, anywhere that you had industrialization was just red. There was no, I mean, I've been in this game some years. I never talked about sulfur. It's just, it's actually now a potential deficiency of a fact that we got really good at making clean air. I mean, we did our job and cleaned up the atmosphere, and now we're all kind of going, oh,
we've created a problem over here
for growers.
Yeah.
The guys in Virginia, Iowa, the big soil fertility guys, they're documenting it pretty steadily.
Interesting.
I know.
Yeah. What do you see coming down the pipeline as far as we always hear? We don't make a lot of fertilizer here or is not produced in the United States. Is there anything on the horizon as far as try to address those problems?
And for people that are into current politics and things, if you just type in fields, it's the acronym like a field. It's Brooke Rollins did the announcement just 2 weeks ago. It's a USDA program, and it's some pretty significant infrastructure investment for American fertilizer companies to upscale, improve their production techniques. Again, back to this green and blue idea to save carbon. They can retrofit factories to make them safer for employees, but it is a pretty nice investment on behalf of the U.S. government toward fertilizer production. They're recognizing that we've gotten in a little bit of a wicket on fertilizer.
Yeah. And and to me, this is not a problem that will solve itself in 6 months, because it takes a long time, even with this potential funding, to try to address the problem. That it won't be an overnight fix. But I think, like a lot of things in row crop production, I think the growers, or they just kind of look for stability over time.
Right.
Whether it be from yields, whether it be from price, whether it be from inputs,
Because you think, how long's it been since large-scale purchases of ammonium nitrate have become difficult? It's been 20, 30 years almost. And it's only in the past few years, because I actually did some research with it, and one of the researchers at Auburn University has studied it now the past 2 years, that there have been some non-explosive formulations of ammonium nitrate coming out on the market. They've been co-blended with some other materials. And the price point is solid. They're putting it right in at a good point. So, it took 20-some years to see those come to fruition.
So another potential tool the growers has a toolbox.
Yeah, for kids. Dr. Eras Francisca has been working with some of it from Auburn, and so it's coming.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time.
Thanks for your time.
Is there any sign-off message you need to put out there? Is there any shout-outs?
No, but through y'all, if somebody has a question or wants to ask more about it, you guys can find me, and I'm happy to provide people with more information.
Well, we're excited about you being here in
Me-
Central Bias Center, and
Yep.
the Wiregrass is just a good place.
It is a good place, except for this.
Yes. Well, there's some research. Let's do some research on all this. Someone, if
Entomologist, busy.
if there was a net, research and it just, cruised.
Maybe if Auburn wasn't situated on the fall line right there, it was more further fall. It was just a little further south, we may have a meteorology.
Pays attention in soil morphology, the fall line.
Yeah, doctors and
Area?
check a quiz on that.
Probably.
Or any his life lessons. And I grew up actually I grew up in Russell County, so I was right on the fall line. It was it's a big difference just sitting there.
Coastal Plain, Piedmont, that too.
Right there. Northern Russell County, Lee County, about noon down here, and you'd be surprised just an hour and a half you move south. It's changed
Very much.
But we're glad to have you. Thanks for being on. We're going to look forward to the research and further.
We're excited to get started. We really are. This will be a nice presence.
Sure. And so we appreciate all of you stopping by, and we hope you continue to check in with us and see what's going on. And we thank Dr. Guertal for being here, and
Anytime. Thanks,
look forward to see what happens.
Okay.
All right.